Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy Artist. Today we are painting this cutie pie. So this is just a sweet little black cat with some roses, very simple background, very easy and fun for beginners. So this is going to be our model. I'll have this over here to the side. We're about to switch camera views so you'll be able to see everything really well. But before we get started, I just wanted to say hello and give you a little view of our studio here today. So I'm painting lots of fun things all around. Lots of pets. So we're doing a pet today. And then of course I've got lots of pets behind me too. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the traceable. So we have painting kits that come with all the supplies that you need. Let me I tried. I made an effort a while ago and I just didn't go anywhere. All right, I did it. I scooted over. All right, so here we go. This is what the template looks like, the traceable. And your kit comes again with everything that you need. So it's got your canvas panel, all your supplies, and then of course this is your transfer paper and the line art. So I'm going to talk to you about how we set this up. So the first thing that we'll do is you'll go ahead and take this out, go ahead and just tape right up here at the top. Dull gray side faces up, shining black side faces the canvas. I leave all of this free and clear on the side so that I can lift up and check my work to make sure that I got all the line work traced. So again, this is just completely covering the canvas panel. Then I'm going to go ahead and take this line art, again, just taping up at the top. 1, 2, that's all that's needed. It's just centered right in the middle there and lined up at the very top here. So that's the easy placement on that. And then there is a pencil with your kit. And basically what you'll do is you'll just, wherever you see a line, then you'll just trace around that. Wherever you see a line, just trace right over the top. Now, sometimes there's confusion. This is a big block letter here. So what I would do here is I would, trace around the outside of the letter. And one important trick here on tracing on a letter is wherever there are loops, like we have a loop here, here and here, we want to preserve the white space. So you always want to make sure and do the line outside of that white space to make sure and preserve it, because sometimes you can trace inside and then you're making a line inside the white space and you can close that loop and basically kind of mess up the letter. So the letter's not going to be legible. So again, just make that line around the white space on the black and you'll be safe on that. So we'll definitely do an outside, because this is such a thick letter. We'll do a line on the outside and then the inside to create that almost like a bubble letter effect there. So, and then the visual on that looks like this. And then I worked ahead a little bit. We also have permanent markers in your kit. They look like this. I like to do a hard line over all that too. That helps really preserve all of your tracing. Even if you dust a little bit of paint over the top, it's still going to bleed through a little bit. So that's actually very helpful for beginners. The only place where I did not completely hardline over the softness of the interior space of the roses and the leaves, I left that just the way it is. So I'm gonna, whoops, always the opposite there. So I leave that the way it is. That way you want to have these really hard black lines to contend with when you start doing the soft pastel colors of the flowers. So there that is. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lift this off. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and tent this. We're going to switch camera views now. Get a nice aerial view here. All right. My little footstool, but scooting nearby, pardon the noise. All right, so I've got my visual nearby for y'all to always see that. It also comes in your kit. Let's go over our supplies really quick. So we have your napkins, your family of brushes. Mine are very loved and used, but yours will be brand new. We have Mama, and then we have Little Buddy, and then we have Little Bit. You make sure and get a bucket of water nearby. That's the only thing we don't have in the kit there for you. We've got the plate. We have your lovely paint kit here and everything that's ready to go. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna put on my little peepers. I can't see those, my little glasses. All right, so first step here, since your brushes will be new, they're gonna be a little bit stiff. So we're gonna go ahead and place this brush into the water just a little bit and then go ahead and dry off. All right, so we just want that to be nice and flexible, easy to move, but no excess water in there. So it's just moist. And then we're gonna go ahead and mix up this nice light gray that's going to be in the background. Now, when you go to open up your paint, and I've got a little head start over here, but we're gonna start with some titanium white and some Mars black. When you go to open this up, initially with a brand new paint, you are going to see a silver foil lining there at the top. You're gonna have to lift that off on each one so that the paint will flow through there. And every time you're done painting, you want to make sure and recap that securely so that it keeps your paint nice and fresh. So you can always use it even if you don't, use up. You should have a lot of extra even after today. So, all right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this background. So I've got my mama brush here. We're going to go ahead and pick up a nice big dollop of that white and then a little tiny touch of the black. We're going to go ahead and mix those two together. So we got this nice medium gray color. All right, so we're going to start to push this into our background. We want a nice textural look, so it's going to look like I'm doing like the letter X over and over again. So you can push down a little bit of gray. You can also just touch into a little bit of white and push that back and forth to give it a little bit of variety, so it's not just that one solid color. So it looks a little bit more textural there. So again, it just feels like you do little tiny letter X's over and over again. You can also add a little bit of water to the paint so that it's a little bit more fluid and easier to brush with. It'll help it flow into the pores of the canvas. And then a little bit of white to add that extra. And then to have another technique here is to hold that brush more over to the side. That'll give you a really light hand. You can do light drags of white over the top, and it's a bit more textural and fun. So that's another little technique you can do there too. Now, when we have to do the cutting work, I'm going to go ahead and push into this medium gray. I'm going to hold the brush just like I'd hold a pencil. That's going to give me the thin line edge of the brush, and that way I can cut in and around this shape here. And that works really well when, like these are big sections to work into. And for the most part, we don't have a lot of little tiny things to worry about cutting into, but in here we certainly do. And what I would recommend there, you want to pick up your little bit brush for that. Do your little twirl into the paint. You can hold the brush like a pencil, and that'll help you get into those really small little areas here. Helps you have a little bit more precision and control in those small areas. This little section here kind of feels like you do a parentheses and a parentheses on the other side. Around that little leaf there. This is a little tiny over here too. We'll go ahead and work into this too. I hope y'all can't hear my air conditioner. It's so loud and scary. It's so old. We pray for it every day. I just said, oh gosh, like, oh gosh, I hope it survives. Oh, I have another little spot right in here. Yeah, well, we have a little bit. Let's go ahead and tackle those little bits of cutting work we have to do. All right, go ahead and rinse out. dry off. All right, so now I'm going to continue on. This is a little bit more fun and therapeutic to do the big, free, fun sections here of just the swish, swish, just back and forth. Again, a little bit of white too as you go. Back and forth. Gonna get some nice texture in there. And they little funny fittings there too. A little bit of pause. Again, just like little tiny letter X's over and over again. Don't forget about alternating them with that white. And the white and the gray, you'll get some nice texture. And then don't forget about holding that brush a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. That'll also help you have a lighter hand. And you can turn the canvas a little bit too. I'm going to go ahead and do that as I work here. Just easier reach into some of these areas here, where your hands not having to drag across the painting, especially while you have some wet paint. White, crisscross back and forth. Crisscross. Back and forth, back and forth. Now the line edge comes around that letter. I'll curve around now. Let's turn it this way now. I'll get into these areas here. I'm gonna lightly push into that line work that we just did, that cut-in work, and then gradually kind of feather out and blend into the rest of the canvas. Light strokes, again, like the letter X. To pick up a little bit and still come in there probably. We'll see. Mhm. I think I had it up. All right, so I'm going to turn it all the way back around. So we've got our background done here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse out. It's very important. You don't have time to rinse out and clean the brush immediately. You want to make sure it just rests in the water until you get a chance to clean it. Because acrylic paint does set up and dry very quickly. So it can ruin your brushes and turn them into sticks. We want brushes and sticks. All right, so all good on that. And then let's see here. Let's go ahead and start to work in the black. So I'm going to start with the kitty cat here first. Well, this paint's very easy. So good for beginners. So mama and just pure black paint. And we're going to use the line edge to go around the edge here. Same kind of a brush stroke. You want to have the same texture in here where you crisscross the strokes back and forth. Because when the paint dries, it'll reflect the light on it nicely. If it has that nice little pattern, that go back and forth pattern in it. And I will always use your little bit brush to get into those really tiny areas. Checking in here. Make sure I don't have any little white peekaboos in the canvas showing through. You can also add a little bit of water to the paint if you need to help it kind of be more fluid and rest onto the canvas and help make it flow into those pores. All right, so we look good there. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out my mama here. Wow. Take a little bit, do a little spin here. And then I'm gonna definitely get close to the letters as I can to help me have the best vantage point as I work in. It also kind of help hold your arm like that too as you're working, or you can rest it on a surface here like I have. And then a little bit of water with this too. You can add a little bit of water. Make sure you do it on your plate first so that it's not too much and doesn't make a spill onto your canvas, but a little bit of water to help this be more fluid and just flow into those spaces more. So this is just patience, just kind of, hold it like a pencil and just paint into the letters that are already there for you. Just into that space. A little bit of water is helpful, so how that feel to kind of thin that paint out a little bit. And we'll just keep working this all the way around. Another helpful hint with this brush is if it gets too full of paint and you need to thin it out, you can always just do a little twist here into your paint. That will help too. And see, we have that little overpaint of the gray. And if you have a little bit of that going on too, this is a great time to correct it. The other thing I will tell you too is you can let all your paint completely dry. And if you do a little bit of fine tuning, taking that permanent marker is also a nice little cheat. Help tighten everything up, clean it up a little bit. You just want to make absolutely sure that your paint is completely dry. Otherwise, you'll just ruin the permanent marker. If the permanent marker hits wet paint, it just dries it permanently, which is very sad, but it's a real thing. So just, you want to keep it intact. Just make sure you use it on only a dry canvas. All right, so that lettering is done. It's so cute. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn. It's lovely. I'm gonna get the other way. Now, we've had a little bit of setup and dry time. What I do recommend, I have to keep teaching, so I have to just be very delicate. But for you at home, I would just take a moment to let all this completely dry so that you don't drag any wet black into your beautiful flowers, because it can be a little bit hard to stay away from that. So you do have to be really careful with that. I'm just going to be very careful. So I'm going to be using the primary magenta. I get a nice little nickel size dollop of that. And then I'm going to take my little buddy brush here and I'm going to grab a little bit of white, push that in. A bit more white. And then I'm going to go ahead and place this into my rose shape here. I just do little presses and then little half circles. Going to be our foundation. Initially, these roses will just kind of look like big lumpy circles, and that's okay. We're about to get really down here a little bit. And then one more up here. There's little lumpy circles. Rinse out, dry off. Okay, so now I'm going to take the little bit brush and then grab some white. Right on the end there. And I'm going to make a little half circle, another little half circle. And I'm going to keep pushing that around and make a little circular pattern around that rose. And that makes your fun little rose shape. It's very easy. So do a little half circle. Same thing here. Half circle, and then that circular pattern. All right. So it's very easy to do. You can also add a little bit. So I really like it just the way it is. But if you want to do a little bit of some shadow, you can come in with a darker pink here and do what looks like just a little bitty comma right in the middle. That's also a nice little touch. So very nice. And I'm going to come back in here with this pink. And we have a few more little flowers. You can also just do, this is the pink and the white, just do tiny little touches. I'm just going to barely touch and have it rest over the top because I still have that wet black paint. Rinse out, dry on. So I'm going to gather the green for my next step here. So I've got my cadmium green. And we're also going to use a little bit of Viridian. It's very pretty. I could just use Viridian too. I may do that. I'm not that one. I'll show you a little bit of both. So let's take the white, and we're going to take the white and add that to the Viridian. It's so lovely. And then you just make what looks like a green, just take it out to a point. And fill that in. And do a little tiny rotation here, a little twirl. It'll help taper the point of that brush to get to a nice fine point. So that's more of our Viridian. That's Viridian in the white, and you can add a little bit of that cadmium green to it too. That's going to give you a different look. It's very subtle, but a little bit different. So again, this little parentheses. And a lot of this can happen with just a little tiny touch. Just barely a touch on the surface area. A little press to either side. And don't forget about that little twirl into the pen at the top of the paper. And it's really tiny, you can just kind of barely touch into the middle. That looks super cute. I'm gonna touch up and a little bit of green overlap there. So we'll do a little light touches of white right over the top. I'll smooth that out just a little bit. All right, so that's very fun. And oh my goodness, see, we're already done. This is such a fun, easy painting. So simple, so easy. And again, don't forget, if you have a little bit of fine tuning, the permanent marker is wonderful for that. And it's great also to do your signature here at the end in the bottom corner. So it's very helpful for a little fine tuning, tweaking, and signature. So yeah, that wraps it up. She's a cutie. So I'll provide all the information that you need down in the description below and the link for this painting kit. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for joining us today, and y'all have a beautiful rest of the day. Toodles.